Welcome, everybody, to another Alchemy Monday. I'm in Oklahoma, and I'm joined by my co host, ErosUp. Eros, tell them where they can find you and what you've been working on.
Hey, Headless. You can find me on YouTube at ErosUp, and you can find me on X at Eros to Ethos. Um, I'm a Hellenistic, archetypal, and functional astrologer, and I post a lot about metaphysics as well. So those are my two big favorite things.
And you got a big show coming up this weekend
Oh,
or
yeah.
Friday? Yeah,
Yep.
Friday.
Friday. Yep. We're going to be talking about the 12 labors of Hercules and the North Node in astrology. And it's going to be pretty interesting, I think.
I agree. I think not enough attention is paid between the 12 labors and these archetypal things that carry on throughout all the way up to the present. And we just sort of overlook it, even though these are like transformative for entire Western society and our language. But, we kind of always miss that, and always focused on other things. But today we are doing chapter 4 in The Tincture of the Philosopher. So let's start off with that.
All right. So, yep, we're still reading the Philosopher's Tincture by Paracelsus, and we're on chapter 4, which is titled Concerning the Process for the Tincture of the Philosophers, as it is shortened by Paracelsus. The ancient Spagyrus would not have required such lengthened labor and such wearisome repetition if they had learnt and practised their work in my school. They would have obtained their wish just as well with far less expense and labor. But at this time, when Theophrastus Paracelsus has arrived as the monarch of Arcana, the opportunity is at hand for finding out those things which were occult to all Spagyrus before me. Wherefore I say, take only the rose-colored blood from the lion and the gluten from the eagle. When you have mixed these, coagulate them according to the old process, and you will have the tincture of the philosophers, which an infinite number have sought after, and very few have found. Whether you will or not, Sophist, this magistry is in nature itself, a wonderful thing of God above nature, and a most precious treasure in this valley of sorrows. If you look at it from without, it seems a paltry thing to transmute another into something far more noble than it was before. But you must nevertheless allow this and confess that it is a miracle produced by the spagyrist, who by the art of his preparation corrupts a visible body which is externally vile, from which he excites another most noble and most precious essence. If you in like manner have learnt anything from the light of Aristotle, or from us, or from the rules of Serapio, come forth and bring that knowledge experimentally to light. Preserve now the right of the schools as becomes a lover of honor and doctor. But if you know nothing and can do nothing, why do you despise me as though I were an irrational Helvetian cow, and inveigh against me as a wandering vagabond? Art is a second nature and a universe of its own, as experience witnesses and demonstrates against you and your idols. Sometimes, therefore, the alchemist compounds certain simples, which he afterwards corrupts according to his needs, and prepares thence another thing. For thus very often out of many things one is made, which affects more than nature of herself can do, as in Gestanum. It is perfectly well known that Venus is produced from Saturn, in Carinthia, Luna out of Venus, and in Hungary, Sol out of Luna. To pass over in silence for the time being the transmutations of other natural objects, which were well known to the Magi and more wonderfully than Ovid narrates in his Metaphorosis. Do they come to the light, that you may rightly understand me? Seek your lion in the east, and your eagle in the south, for this our work which has been undertaken. You will not find better instruments than Hungary and Istria produce, but if you desire to lead from unity by duality and trinity with equal permutation of each, then you should direct your journey to the south, so in Cyprus shall you gain all your desire, concerning which we must not dilate more profusely than we have done at present. There are so many more of these arcana which exhibit transmutations, though they are known to few, and although these may by the Lord God be made manifest to anyone, still the rigor of this art does not on that account at once break forth, but the Almighty gives therewith the understanding how to conceal these and other like arts, even to the coming of Elias the artist, at which time there shall be nothing so occult that it shall not be revealed. You also see with your eyes, though there is no need to speak of these things which may be taken deris- derisively by some, that in the fire of sulphur is a great tincture for gems, which indeed exalts them to a loftier degree than nature by herself could do. But this gradation of metals and gems shall be omitted by me in this place, since I have written sufficiently about it in my secret of secrets, in my book on the vexations of alchemists, and abundantly elsewhere, as I have begun the process of our ancestors with the tincture of the philosophers, I will now perfectly conclude it.
Very interesting. So he's making reference to Cyprus and Aphrodite in there.
Yeah, here I'll go back to
Cyprus, you shall gain your all of your desire.
mhm.
Right. So let me read from the Theogony, right? So this is the book by Hesiod from 800 BC concerning all of the parentage of the gods. And what they say here, it says, this is, as for the genitals, just as he first cut them off, he's talking about Saturn chopping off Uranus's junk. Again, Venus comes through Saturn. Saturn is cutting off the junk of Uranus. So it says, as for the genitals, just as he first cut them off with his instrument of adamant and threw them from the land into the surging sea, even so they were carried on the waves for a long time. About them a white foam grew from the immortal flesh, and in it a girl formed. First she approached holy Cytherea, and then from there she came to Sigrit Cyprus. Sigrit Cyprus. And out stepped a modest and beautiful goddess, and the grass began to grow all around beneath her slender feet. Gods and men call her Aphrodite because she was formed in a foam, and Cytherea because she approached Cytherea, and Cyprus born because she was born in a wave washed cypress, and genial because she appeared out of genitals. Eros and fair desire attended her birth and accompanied her as she first went to join the family of the gods, and this has been her allotted province from the beginning among men and mortal gods. So he's making references to the theogony, and it just sort of, desire again is this Aphrodite concept, right? All beings. This is where the crossover between um, Buddhism and Greco-Roman theology match up is through Aphrodite, right? So all suffering arises through desire, right? That's what the Buddhists say. Well, all desire arises through Aphrodite, and even in the Orphic hymn to Aphrodite, they say that she binds even the most powerful monster in unbreakable chains of desire. So everything on this planet desires one thing or another, and this is like the root of alchemy too, because these materials that you're working with desire perfected form, desire perfected essence. And it's your job to follow the path of nature so that these forms can perfect in the Philosopher's Stone, right? So when he's dropping that stuff, that's kind of what he's referring to.
Right, yeah. I think a lot of philosophers would say that um, desire or eros can, lead you to dialectic and these simpler forms.
Right. Desire can either increase the enlightenment, increase the, I guess, the higher forms, or it can take you down into even lower forms, addiction and all the rest of these things. But it would all
But
be
that's not desire's fault.
no, no. We choose what our desire, which we are bound to, and we choose where that binding occurs. And so
Yeah. You either
people,
have will or you don't. You either have control of your bestial, um, whether you're reacting to the world around you and you are just living in reaction to your environment, or you can direct it. But I would say that that would make someone either go the lower direction. So I wouldn't say it's desire's fault. It's the sensory, like, desiring faculty's fault.
well, I would say that desire always leads to conflict, always. And it's how you manage that conflict. So if you want to create the Philosopher's Stone, you're going to be in direct conflict with the materials that you're working with until you can follow the path of nature around those obstacles, right? The obstacles is what comes after the desire. So that there's always a conflict element involved in desire, whether it's unifying or separating, all of it involves some sort of kind of a desire and conflict, which,
Mm.
again, as the Buddhists would say, that would be the disappointment or all of these other factors that would lead to, well, I have this desire, I'm not being fulfilled, so therefore I have unhappiness. But you could also say, actually, you're given obstacles and you could choose how to overcome those obstacles, how you can change your desire, how you can make something better out of it. So this is chapter 2 of The Alchemist Handbook by Frater Albertus. It is difficult to understand alchemical terminology. The novice without proper mental and spiritual preparation usually interprets spagyric symbols in his or her own way, thereby starting on a laborious road of misconception that only years of painful experience can remedy. It is safe to say, and experience has taught it to be so, that all beginners in alchemy have their mind set on obtaining the Philosopher's Stone. However justified this goal may be, nevertheless, without proper preparation, it is usually soon abandoned, whether after comparatively short amount of experimentation with no results, to become names, or after a comparatively short amount of time, experimentation with no results become manifest, then alchemy is condemned, called a fraud, or given a similar names. An erstwhile serious student, due to lack of proper preparation, disparages the true value of that which they do not understand. In this chapter of practical alchemistical laboratory experimentation, the beginner will patiently be instructed on how to obtain the true alchemical herbal tinctures, extracts, and salts. As the reader will notice, patiently instructed has been emphasized. It may well be to commence this instruction by confronting the neophyte with the prime requisite in alchemical laboratory practice, namely patience. This word should be painted in large letters and then hung above the alchemist's athanor. It is incomprehensible that anyone can accomplish anything in laboratory alchemy without the utmost patience. Later personal experience will let the beginner come to a full realization of this important statement. If therefore the neophyte believes him or herself sufficiently endowed with this virtue, I shall most gladly open the door to my laboratory and guide the earnest student in his mind's eye through the various processes which are necessary to obtain the desired results. To begin with, the selection of herbs for medicinal purposes must be known to the aspirant. This means a fair understanding of herbs and their uses. So this next section is how to collect and prepare the plants. The different parts of plants should be gathered when their particular juices are most abundant in them. He's talking about the proper time period in which to obtain these abundant juices. Barks. The barks of either trunk, branches, or roots should be peeled off from young trees in autumn or early spring. After shaving off the outer portion of the bark, cut thinly and place in a good position in the shade to dry. Roots. These should be dug after the leaves are dead in the fall, at which time all the strength has gone down into the root. So the alchemical idea of this is that the plant is sleeping during the fall and winter months, and all of the essence is drawn down into the bottom of the plant. And in the springtime, especially with birch, right, you can obtain a gallon of fresh water a day coming from the birch tree, because it's shooting all that water up into the branches to start the process of getting photosynthesis for the spring and summer months. So let's see. But better still, dig them in early spring before the sap rises. Seeds and flowers. Only after they are fully ripened in full bloom should the seeds and flowers respectively be gathered. They should be dried quickly in the shade. Medicinal plants. These should be taken while in blossom for best results, but it can be gathered at any time before the frost comes. Dry quickly in the shade. Leaves. Leaves should be collected while the plant is in flower. Dry quickly. Fruits and berries. These should be picked when fully ripe and then dry quickly. Let's see, where's my One of the best methods for drying herbs is to spread them thinly on clean paper, preferably on the floor, over which a constant stream of fresh air can pass. Herbs or all vegetable medicines should be kept in dry and dark places. Tin cans are to be preferred over other containers for storing powders. Roots are best kept in covered boxes. Tinctures and extracts should be kept in dark glass bottles to protect them from the action of light. Let us suppose then that an herb known as balm, lemon balm, or Melissa officinalis, has been selected. After the selection of the desired herb from which the true alchemical medicinal potencies shall be derived, we shall now consider the principal ways of obtaining an extract. They are as follows. Maceration. The fresh or dried herb is soaked in water and left standing at room temperature. Circulation. The fresh or dried herb is percolated, using the method of how you would make coffee over and over again inside of a container. This is accomplished by having a condenser over a flask which lets the moisture condense and drip back into the bottom of the container. It then repeats this process, which is also known as reflux. Extraction. The fresh or dried herb is put in a thimble, and both are placed in a soxhlet extractor for extraction. Either of the three procedures can be used to obtain an extract. Water, alcohol, or ether may be used as an extraction media. You can also use fat-soluble sources as well, which would be like lipids. You can extract using lipids as well. There's lots of other extraction methods, but you've also got what's it called? They use a freezing method as well. So you can freeze extract herbs, and you can fast extract frozen stuff using butane. So butane extraction super cools it, and then all of the juices are separated out based off of the freezing process. Some of it doesn't freeze, and that's the stuff that you want. Let's see. Water, alcohol, or ether may be used as an extraction media. The above three ways are chiefly employed to obtain the extract or the tincture. What I want to try is what's it called? Not sodium. It's sulfur hydroxide, I believe. No, it's a form of sulfur, right? It comes from the bark of a tree, and it's used in creating balms and other things. It was banned in the 1970s because they said there's no way of testing this, right? But you could actually buy it from Canada. And this stuff is the most soluble on human skin. So this is extracted from the bark of a tree, and once you put it on your skin, it's immediately absorbed into the bloodstream. I was thinking if you do an abstract or an extraction with that stuff, you're going to be getting like all of the medicinal properties of this plant directly into your bloodstream as soon as you put it on as a balm or something. Let's see here. The above three ways are chiefly employed to obtain an extract of the tincture. The tincture derived from a distillation with water does not contain as much of the essential essence as the herb as the macerated herbal extract obtained by immersion in alcohol or ether. To obtain all the possible essence, including the oily substance inherent in the herb, the latter method by extracting in an extraction apparatus, a soxolite or other, is preferable. After the extraction of the essence, the herb will remain as a dead residue, right? This is the caput mortuum that they talk about in all of the older alchemical stuff. The life has been taken in the form of the liquid essence in either one of the above described three methods. These feces, as they are called, or in alchemical language, caput mortuum, meaning deadhead, are then taken and burned to ashes. This is accomplished by taking the residue and placing it in an earthenware or porcelain dish, which is placed over the fire. The contents of the dish are burned to a blackness, from which state they will gradually change to a light gray color. After these ashes have become light, they should be placed into a mortar and ground into a fine powder with a pestle. It is here where the differences between the allopathic, homeopathic, and biochemic medical procedures become evident. Allopathic therapeutics generally use tinctures or salts, alkaloids, while homeopathic and biochemic therapeutics use salts, minerals, tincturated. The triangle is a great help in explaining the necessity of conjunction of both of the essence of and the salt to obtain the true manifestation occurs only in alchemy to demonstrate. So he's got this little triangle here, right? So the top part of the triangle, manifestation, perfect medicine. The right part is negative or properly attuned passive recipient, the salt. And then you've got the positive force on the left-hand side, which would be the essence. So what they're saying is when you've created the salts from the ashes and then recombine that with the essence from the plant itself, there's a process that takes place that sort of re-enlivens this essential mixture that you get that then becomes the spagyric. If an herb meant, go ahead.
What was that Holy Trinity again?
Right, so it's manifestation of the perfect medicine, right? So over there on the right, you've got the what's backwards on the screen, negative or properly attuned passive recipient, the salts. And then the sulfur and mercury are poured over the salts so that all of the dead parts of the plant are removed and only the living essences are left. Right, so the salts would dissolve into the alcohol and into the essential oils, making a new enlivened product. Right. Let me see here. If an herb immersed or steeped in boiling water produces a tea that helps remedy bodily disorders, how much more effective must be the manifestation of an extract or even the conjunction of extract and salt in the human body? It may be well for further demonstration that to present here three principal kingdoms of nature in their proper relationship, i.e., vegetable, animal, and mineral kingdoms. A common error that has been and still being made is the intermixing of vegetable essence with animal or mineral salts, since each constitutes a separate sphere or vibratory group. A mixture of these is not properly attuned to the recipients will produce no manifestation. So combining mineral, animal, or vegetable in improper balance with each other's essences will produce no manifestation. Again, that manifestation part, that would be the plant stone. So if you're doing the proper vibrations and you're getting these essences and the salts and you're combining them, there should be the manifestation process, which would produce the plant stone. And achieving the plant stone is the first step on the way to achieving the philosopher's stone, right? The lesser circulation into the greater. Important especially when producing the elixirs derived from animal or even mineral kingdoms, it is because of a misunderstanding of these vital principles of alchemy that such a fervor has been caused among pseudo alchemists when they have failed to produce any alchemical manifestations while in their estimations these manifestations should have occurred. It is seemingly impossible to convey the fundamental principles to newcomers in alchemy without the use of analogy. Through concentration from a commonly harmless substance, a poison can be produced. Therefore, it is also possible to produce from the same substance something which is equally non poisonous. If the reader will follow patiently through the labyrinth of seeming contradiction, he will emerge truly triumphant at the end of its winding path. Carefully avoiding prejudice and misconception, he will be able to see the light. To be sure, alchemy is a slow process. It is evolution, the raising of vibrations. It is not a subject that can be mastered by means of the intellectual faculties alone. That's what I think the most important part of alchemy is like everybody wants to get up in their heads with ritual magic and all the rest of this stuff. But when it comes to alchemy, you're producing something physical. It has to be in the body as well as in the mind, right? You're not just doing all the mental work. You have to actually be doing the experimental work as well. And you have to unify these two principles to get on the right vibration for manifestation. Let me see. The two principles of essence and salt have now been presented. However, before taking the next difficult step in joining of the essence to the salt and thus producing an alchemical manifestation, a few words dealing with what the essence and the salt represent should be carefully noted by the reader. The essence, quintessence, or active force in the vegetable kingdom is the same in all plant life. The salt or ashes to which any plant can be reduced differs from one plant to another. Salts are always different. The alcohol is always the same. The essence, or mercury, as alchemists call it, is the life giving energy that is manifest in all matter. The same mercury exists throughout the animal kingdom and the same mercury throughout the mineral kingdom. Yet the reader will please note, although the mercury is of the same origin, it is of a certain vibration in the vegetable kingdom, of a higher vibratory rate in the animal kingdom, and of a still higher rate in the mineral realm. We think of everything backwards. The alchemists see the highest vibration in the mineral kingdom and the lowest vibration being in the plant kingdom.
I mean, I
Kind of
guess it
interesting.
makes sense.
Well, I think it's because the building block of everything has to be of the highest quality. So the mineral feeds into everything else, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it feeds into plants the most since the plants are breaking down all of the mineral kingdom and then producing it and then in themselves in the form of these salts and essences. And then the plants are fed on by the animal kingdom, which is a higher vibration than that. But the highest vibration among all of them would be the philosopher's stone, which would come from the mineral kingdom, which would be like the building blocks for all the rest of it.
I mean, some minerals have like a frequency that they even output, so I don't know.
Crystallography,
Makes
right?
sense.
I was I was watching videos on how to produce what are they called? Rubies in a laboratory environment. And this guy is using these crucibles and getting it at just the right temperature so that he can create a seed crystal. And then he's trying to grow all of these other larger crystals off of that seed crystal. But in essence, what that seed crystal is like a little tiny living piece of geometry. And once you reach that same pressure and heat, again, with that piece of geometry, it's going to spread that geometry into all the other constituent parts. So uh, rubies are actually made out of aluminum and silicon crystals. And so once you get the geometry right in the materials of aluminum, then it becomes transparent and red. So did you ever see the movie Star Trek 4 where they've got the whales? Probably not. It was a
No.
really old movie. You would love it though. This is the one where they go back in time into San Francisco back in the 1984, right? So the entire crew of Star Trek is like looking at all these freaks in 1984, San Francisco, and they're having these strange interactions with everybody. Well, Scotty, the engineer on the ship, he's trying to repair the ship while also not giving away that he's actually from the future. So he comes into this, I think it's a submarine factory. I don't know why they would let some strangers into a submarine factory. And so he starts typing on the computer, and they're like, it's transparent aluminum. You've invented transparent aluminum. He's like, aye. Well, transparent aluminum is just ruby, right? So they just rephrased what was already a thing, and now it's a thing, right? But I guess they didn't really fully realize that at the time. But yeah, you can make transparent aluminum walls using ruby, using these seed crystals as the way of creating it. So you can make a bigger and bigger ruby if you perfect the process, and then you can have entire planes of glass made out of ruby instead of just you know glass. Anyways, that aside, um, let's see, where am I? I've completely lost my place, but we're right around 30 minutes. So I think this has been a good episode. We're going to get into this stuff more and more, maybe get into more theogony because, that's very clearly on the top of Paracelsus's mind is theogony. He's talking about it a lot, but you don't get it unless you've read it. So thank you for joining us. Eros, do you have any words of wisdom for our audience?
No words of wisdom. I hope that you guys will check out the episode on the Occult Rejects Friday. And yeah, this has been fun. This has been great. And till next time.
We had a party last Friday. That was amazing. That was or was that the Oracle at Delphi?
Well, there's the Oracle of Delphi, and then there's the David Ranke.
Right. Right. Those are all great episodes. If you go back and check those out, they were great. So check our channels out, spread them around, get this stuff out there because, a lot of other groups are kind of faking the funk at this point. They're just sort of, interviewing and not really interacting and furthering the conversation. And I think that's what makes the Occult Rejects a little bit different is we're trying to further the conversation with these authors and occult personalities, whereas everybody else is just, asking the same old, same old. So it's a different way of looking at the world. But thank you for joining us. And definitely we'll see you again next time. Later.